Oh, Mom, I have to tell you something.
Yes, darling. What is it?
I know I've been unconscious for a while, but sometimes I could still hear people around me speak. I heard everything you said to me and the doctors.
Is that so?
Yes, and I also heard Lauren too.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. We were trying to talk to you, keeping you company.
You did, Mom. For Lauren, I actually heard something she said.
Oh, what is it, darling?
I have a feeling that Lauren has been stealing money from our joint account.
What?
I just. I heard something when she was on the phone with someone. I'm not sure if I was right.
Thomas, I'm really shocked to hear that.
Where's she now, Mom?
I don't know, darling. I have been calling her, but I couldn't reach her.
Would you be willing to go through her things and see if you can find anything suspicious?
Of course, I'll do whatever I can to help. But Thomas, are you sure you want to do this? You're still recovering, and this could be very stressful for you.
I need to know the truth, and you're the only one I can turn to right now.
All right, darling, I'll do it. I'm Savannah, a middle aged woman who thought I had a perfect life. My dear husband had passed away a few years back due to cancer. Despite the loss of him, I was content living with my son Thomas and his wife Lauren. They were the epitome of happiness, and seeing them together filled my heart with joy. Thomas and Lauren had met in college and had been inseparable ever since. They were the perfect match for each other, and I couldn't have been happier with their union. They were both successful in their careers, and their love for each other was evident in every little thing they did. Thomas was an assistant manager at a construction company, and Lauren was a teacher. Their stable jobs helped us live very comfortably in our small little apartment. As a mother, seeing my son so happy with his wife was all I could ever ask for. My life had been filled with love and contentment, and I couldn't imagine it being any other way. But little did I know that my perfect world was about to come crashing down. One tragic day, Thomas had an accident at the construction site, and he was rushed to the hospital immediately. I remember the phone call like it was yesterday. The panic in Lauren's voice as she told me what had happened. My heart dropped as I was rushed to the hospital, praying that everything would be okay. But the news was not good. Thomas had sustained severe injuries and had undergone multiple surgeries, but he was still in an unpredictable state of unconsciousness. The doctors couldn't tell us when he would regain consciousness or if he ever would. Those days were the hardest days of my life. I was devastated, and Lauren was too. I sat by Thomas's bedside every day, holding his hand and praying for him to wake up. Lauren was by my side, and we tried to stay strong for each other, but the uncertainty was eating away at us. Every beep from the machines monitoring Thomas's vitals was a reminder of his fragile state. The doctors would come in every day to give us updates, but the news was always the same: no progress. As the day turned into weeks, I felt like I was losing my son. The once vibrant and lively Thomas was now lying motionless in a hospital bed, and I couldn't do anything to help him. Lauren and I agreed to bring Thomas home where we could care for him ourselves with the help of a private nurse. Luckily, Thomas had previously been offered a really good insurance plan by his company, so we could actually afford his treatments. 2 months passed by, and there was still no sign of improvement in Thomas's condition. My hope was slowly fading, but I refused to give up. I would talk to him and play his favorite songs, hoping that something would trigger him to wake up. I was living in a constant state of anxiety and grief, but I couldn't let it get the best of me. However, Lauren's behavior started to worry me. She became distant and aloof, spending most of her time outside of the house. When she did come back home, she would be cold and unresponsive, refusing to take care for Thomas or engage in any conversation with me. I didn't know what was going on with her, but I knew that something was not right. One day, I just couldn't take it anymore. Lauren came back home late again, and she was distant and cold. I took her by the hand and led her to the living room, where I sat her down and tried my best to have a heart to heart conversation with her. Lauren, we need to talk. I know you're struggling, but we need to be there for Thomas. He needs us more than ever. I know, Savannah. I'm sorry. I'm just really sad. The whole situation is tearing me apart. I know, Lauren. It's tearing me apart too. But we have to be strong for Thomas. He needs us to believe in him, to fight for him. I'm sorry, Savannah. I'll try to be better, I promise. But this is really stressful for me, and I think I need a lot of space. Okay, I understand. I can give you more space from now on. Just promise me, when you're ready, you'll be more present, okay? Okay. I hugged her really tightly, but could feel her embrace ingenuine. I tried to shake that feeling off. After all, this situation was hard on all of us, and we all coped in different ways. But we had to stick together for Thomas's sake. So I tried my best to be as patient and understanding as possible. Just when I thought I had lost all hope, my prayers were finally answered. One magical day, my dear Thomas opened his eyes. I couldn't believe it. After all these months, he was finally waking up. I immediately called his doctor to take care of him. He was once again transferred to the hospital, and I stayed by his side every minute on the way. I couldn't leave him alone, not even for a second. I was afraid that if I did, he would slip back into a coma. As Thamad had been settled in a hospital room, I realized that I hadn't heard back from Lauren. I tried calling and texting her, but she didn't respond. I was worried. Had something happened to her? Had she gotten sick? I called her friends and family, but no one seemed to know where she was. But I had better things to care about then. Thomas was conscious, and in just a few hours he was able to speak to me. I was on the verge of crying when he opened his mouth. I had missed him so much, and I was so grateful that he was back with us again. But to my surprise, Thomas didn't seem too happy about regaining consciousness. Something was bothering him. I could see it in his eyes. I was wondering if that was because of his physical condition or if there was something else. It felt like he could read my mind because soon enough, he confessed something shocking to me. Mom, I have to tell you something. Yes, darling. What is it? I know I've been unconscious for a while, but sometimes I could still hear people around me speak. I heard everything you said to me and the doctors. Thomas was trying so hard to speak, as if he had to master all the strength he had left. My heart broke for him, but I tried to stay calm. Is that so? Yes, and I also heard Lauren too. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. We were trying to talk to you, keeping you company. You did, Mom.
For Lauren, I actually heard something she said.
Oh, what is it, darling? I thought about all the times Lauren didn't come home or didn't speak to me. I wondered if that had been bothering Thomas.
I have a feeling that Lauren has been stealing money from our joint account.
What? I would have never expected anything close to that. Lauren was so in love with Thomas. How could she even think about doing that to him? To my surprise, Thomas was strangely calm, as if he had already made up his mind.
I heard something when she was on the phone with someone. I'm not sure if I was right.
Thomas, I'm really shocked to hear that.
Where is she now, Mom?
I don't know, darling. I've been calling her, but I couldn't reach her. We fell into silence for a few minutes. It was clear that something was going on. Lauren was his wife, and she didn't even show up to the hospital, even when he had recovered from such a terrible state.
Would you be willing to go through her things and see if you can find anything suspicious?
Of course, I will do whatever I can to help. But Thomas, are you sure you want to do this? You're still recovering, and this could be stressful for you.
I need to know the truth, and you're the only one I can turn to right now.
All right, darling, I'll do it. A few hours later, Lauren finally texted back. She said she had been busy with work and would be heading to the hospital as soon as possible. When I heard that Lauren was on her way, I knew I had to act fast. I came up with a plan and decided to commit to it no matter what, for the sake of my son. As soon as Lauren arrived, I excused myself from the room, telling her that I needed to borrow her car to run an errand. She seemed hesitant, but I played it off as nothing out of the ordinary. Once I got inside her car, I began my search. I knew that I needed to be quick, but thorough. I went through the glove compartment, the center console, and the back seats, but I didn't find anything out of the ordinary. Just as I was about to give up, I noticed a small bag tucked under the driver's seat. It was a nondescript black bag, but something about it caught my eye. I reached under the seat and pulled it out. When I opened the bag, I found an extra phone. It was an older model, but it still worked. Just when I turned it on, I saw that there were several messages from an unknown number. As I read through the messages, my heart sank. They were all from a man named Mark, and they were all filled with lovey-dovey messages. It was clear that Lauren was having an affair, and this second phone was how she was communicating with her lover. I couldn't believe it. Thomas had suspected that something was wrong, but I never thought it would be this bad. I put the phone down and drove straight to the closest shopping mall. I stayed in the car so that I could go through all the messages I found. Doing that in the parking lot of the hospital would be too risky. As I read through the older texts, I realized that the affair started almost as soon as Thomas had that accident. It seemed like she was not the loyal and loving wife I thought she was. She really fell for another man just a week after something unfortunate happened to her husband? To make matters worse, this affair had been becoming more serious. That guy Mark went as far as asking Lauren to steal Thomas's money so that she could run away with him. My heart shattered with every message I read. It was completely devastating, but I was calm enough to know what to do. I took a screenshot of all the most important messages and sent them to myself. I now had the proof of that disgusting affair. Then, I quickly put the phone back in the bag and returned it to its hiding spot under the seat. I drove back to the hospital, my mind filled with tangled thoughts. Once I got back to the hospital, I didn't say anything to Thomas or Lauren about what I had found. I wanted to wait until I could talk privately to Thomas. Lauren was wondering what was taking me so long, but I just made up an excuse for that. As soon as Thomas saw the look on my face, he already knew something was wrong. I had to wait for another hour before Lauren decided to get up and leave. I took a deep breath and told Thomas everything about Lauren's affair, about the stolen money, and about the extra phone. Thomas looked devastated. The color drained from his face, and he silently closed his eyes as tears fell down on his face. I didn't know what to say. There was nothing I could say to make him feel better. All I could do was be there for him and support him in whatever decision he made next. But I could tell that this was going to be a long road for him. His trust had been broken, and his heart had been shattered. I couldn't even imagine dealing with such huge emotional baggage after just recovering from a physical blow. The days after that were heavy and gloomy. Lauren would come to the hospital to visit, but she never stayed for long. I knew that her recklessness only motivated Thomas to leave her even more. Just after a few days, he made up his mind. He told me he had to divorce her. What's more, he wanted to bring her to court. He was hurt and angry, and he wanted to make sure that Lauren was held accountable for her actions. That's where I came in. As someone who had all the proof of her affair and attempt to steal his money, I met with lawyers and built a case against Lauren for fraud and theft. Thanks to our hard work and dedication, we were able to win the case. Lauren was found guilty and was ordered to pay him $30,000 in damages. Later, we found out that Mark was lying to Lauren that he was a doctor, whereas he had quit med school and became an addict years ago. He was only in it for the money, and the moment Lauren went broke, he left her. She had nowhere to go and no one to turn to. Upon hearing about what happened, all of her friends and families had really disapproved of her terrible decisions, so much so that they distanced themselves from her. Thomas and I decided that we didn't want to keep her in our contact either. Thomas was finally able to move on from the pain and hurt that Lauren had caused him. He was free to start a new chapter in his life, one that didn't involve lies and deceit. Thomas used the settlement money he received to open a small construction company of his own. It was a dream he had always had, and now he had the means to make it a reality. Thomas poured his heart and soul into the business, determined to make it a successful company for his workers. He implemented safety protocols and ensured that his employees were treated fairly and with respect. His company quickly gained a reputation for being one of the most reliable and trustworthy construction companies in the area. With the success of business, Thomas was able to give back to the community. He donated a portion of his profits to charities that supported the families of injured construction workers, and he became an advocate for safer working conditions in the industry. Thomas and I are happier than ever now, and we are so grateful for everything that life has blessed us with. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Do you think that Lauren had received the punishment she deserved?